This is the 7th and final in the mini-series Astrological Magic. I've chosen this title because it's easy to forget that astrology is magic. It's not science, it's not an art, it's something else. And it needs to be approached in the right way for it to work. A lot of people question whether they believe in astrology without actually understanding what question they're asking. What does it mean to believe in astrology? Well, to me it means, can astrology move you into a state of knowing such that you can interact with a client, in a meaningful way that has the power to help them? Then assuredly, of course, astrology is worth studying. It's an amazing thing. And most particularly because its language is so elegant and so complete. And by learning the language, you learn the knowledge. That's how you master something. If you master any craft at all, you have to learn its language. And when you learn the craft of astrology, then you master the sense of everything. I mean, everything is explained in astrology. And you move closer and closer towards a universal understanding of people, particularly, and events in the world. This knowledge comes not from books. You trigger the knowledge by reading the books, and you check it out by talking to people, and you try and perfect it by delivering it as a reading to your clients. But that's not enough. The final mystery is to open up to the forces of magic. And if you're actually practicing astrology without doing that, then you're missing the best bit. There is an agency which can travel through you if you know how to use it. It's called channeling sometimes. It might be that you're in contact with another being. I prefer to think of it as just tuning into your higher self. And at the level of soul, communication is quite different. It's on the basis of telepathy or very profound empathy at the very least. And we can operate on that level if we know how to access soul consciousness as astrologers. That means taking your own ego out of the way, which is a challenge, because inevitably the clients that you attract are attracted by your own neurotic patterning. And in helping another client, you're actually trying to heal your own imperfections. So to put them out of the way in order just to focus on the client is actually how you do that. That's what makes it work. You decide not to have that ego problem yourself because you have a sacred duty to the client not to dump your stuff on them. And when you've learned how to do that, to put your own ego out of the way, you open up to a higher force. Let's call that your own soul, although it could be, something else too. And when then that happens, you find yourself speaking differently. There's this flow that comes through you. You know things that you didn't know before. You have a smooth presentation. You have the courage to say things which you don't really understand, perhaps. And you just notice the client's response on a much deeper level. Your sense of awareness and intuition and knowledge of the client somehow raises itself to a mystical level. And at that level, you're practicing the highest astrological magic there is. You know when it's happening. It feels mysterious. It feels like you're not in the mundane dimension anymore. And you're locked into a kind of a symbiosis relationship with the client. Both of you are in that state, so that then it flows. If only one of you is, well, actually that's not doable. Both of you have to get into the state for it to work, because somehow when that happens, when both of you raise yourself to a higher level, you open up this telepathic communication on a level of soul. So your soul and their soul are in attunement together. It's good to know that this is the formula so that you can actually try it out. But it's not necessary to think like that. What is necessary is to get the client to respond to your initiative. This is one of the trickiest parts of any reading. The client has to come with their boundaries intact. They have to. They don't know that you're trustworthy. Why would they know that? They don't know that you're capable, competent. So they're taking a risk in opening up to you. And you have to help them with that. And one of the ways to do that is just to make it clear that you understand them. And that comes from just saying what you see in the chart in such a way as they agree with it. And the more and more and more and more you do that as the reading progresses, the more and more and more they open up. And you see the features change. They're features in the face which show boundaries soften and show empathy and involvement. So when you can do that, when you can notice how well you're winning over your client and getting them to trust you, then you move into this more subtle level of higher rapport. And then inspiration is awakened. This is what happens when you're into this channeling mood. You both feel inspired, and there's an additional dimension of excitement. You're both really enjoying what's going on, and there's a great deal of life force occurring. And it's real. The client doesn't experience this depth of concentrated attention or communication in any other aspect of their lives, typically. We do have, as astrologers, a task of affirming or assuming that what we see in the chart is right. And sometimes the client will not understand. They just won't get what you just said to be true. And sometimes you just have to say, yeah, honestly, it is. It's inevitable. If you've got this particular aspect, then it's inevitable that this is going on somewhere within you. Look a bit deeper, and your sense of what you see in the chart and their sense of who they are will disagree. That's the purpose of the reading. That's why they came to you, because you can see something which they haven't seen yet, or at least give it words. You can understand it clearly enough to give it words, and it might just be a vague feeling which checks out when you give words to it in their mind. But you are also going to see things within them that they haven't noticed before, and you have to have quite a lot of confidence that what you see checks out. It must be the case, and this develops, of course, with your own experience. And you can't be too arrogant about that, but you have to be confident. It's a very thin line between the two things. And this sense of assumption, given with confidence, is a power. And so you must use that very wisely. You must kind of give the client the opportunity to affirm something about themselves which is more than they've known before. And therein comes the principle of what I would call artful ambiguity. We see this in the daily horoscopes in the newspapers. You may meet a stranger. You might become, they cloud it with ambiguity so that you can read your own interpretations into it. And this is how it can work. You offer not exactly a vague, but a non-specific interpretation. So you don't say that necessarily Saturn involves responsibility and duties that you don't want to carry out. That might be an interpretation. It could well work for a lot of people, but you say something more like, with Saturn, often the question of responsibility comes up, and the facing of duties is a decision that you have to make. So you give them a sense of opportunity to go one way or another with it. You don't lay it on them, and you develop the skill of presenting your points of view in this ambiguous way, so that interpretations from the client can be, first of all, it gives them freedom. You're not imposing upon them. But secondly, you can actually then build on what they say and discuss the particular question that they have rather than the general wisdom that you have. So, bottom line with the magic of astrology is that you have to open yourself up to it yourself. If you don't, then it's not really magical. I've assumed throughout this whole series that we're looking to make a difference. We're trying to help the client become more than they were before, and to face the unpleasantness that they haven't been able to face before, by replacing it with the optimism and hope that they can actually become something more. That's magic. That's creating a reality in the client that they wouldn't have had had you not done it. And if you take that to the higher level, then you can do that at the level of soul. So allow yourself to become a channel. You may think that you don't do it, but I think that we all do it. I don't think there is any other technique through which we communicate other than channeling. It's an article of faith that I see it this way.